$25 billion in sales. I did $480 million in sales just on that one product. There's actually a mathematical formula that I was taught back in my organization called the Brotherhood, the group that kind of is the shadow government behind all the governments. I was given the entire success puzzle. You can focus your attention on what you want in a narrow beam on a brainwave frequency right in between alpha and theta, which is really the wealth wave, the billionaire brainwave. And you'll start making money in spite of yourself, and it will almost seem like you're making money by accident. There are some common denominators that very successful people will do that aren't in any of the books. The first thing that you have to do, and nobody talks about this in any book on success, is
what it is. Brad Lee back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs. Today in the studio, folks, I got a real treat for you. Kevin Trudeau's in the house. Welcome back, I should say.
Welcome back. Well, glad to be here.
Now, if you guys don't know who Kevin Trudeau is, you're probably a brand new puppy. But if you know, if you've been around a minute, you would remember Kevin, number one, because he had the memory program.
You would remember the memory program.
Yes, you would. And you would see him all over infomercials back. I don't even know when it was.
Back in 1989, I went on TV infomercials and basically controlled most of the infomercial time in the United States, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and South Africa. So 80% of all the stuff that was on there at a certain point in time, like in Australia, was all our programming.
Yeah, and you were making, millions. And what you just told me, I said, excuse me?
Yeah,
you said billions.
Billions. We did all the enterprises, not just infomercials, but the mining operations and all the other companies I had. I had 3 TV networks in Europe. I launched the Golf Channel. I launched a shopping network called Shop America, which was second to QVC. But altogether, in today's dollars, it's estimated around $25 billion in sales. So they were really big enterprises with, thousands of employees, which sounds exciting and so forth, but, can be a lot of headaches and hassles as well. But it was a very fun enterprise, and the enterprises were all interconnected because everything we did was designed to positively impact people's lives in some way. It wasn't just to make money. And there was a lot of deals that came by. Oh, we can make a lot of money here, Kevin. We can make a couple $100 million on this. And I just didn't have any interest. It really had to fall into the mission or the purpose, which was to positively impact people's lives. And I had to promote things that I was actually using and taking, and I got benefit from, and my family members and friends were. And only at that point did I say, okay, we can now offer this to the public because this is something that people really need to know about, or a program like Mega Memory, or the speed reading program we had, or the math program we had, or the Natural Cures book that I came out with. These are the things that I was utilizing in my life and seeing great benefit. And then we could offer it to others as well. And in the process, there was a lot of profit as well.
Are you from Canada?
No, but Trudeau, the last name, obviously like the Prime Minister of Canada. My father's line is French Canadian, but my mother's Italian.
But you say process.
I do say process because I spent so much time living in Zurich, Switzerland, and also in Sydney, Australia, which were 2 of my favorite cities that I lived in. And I kind of got into the habit of saying process.
So when you were like in your heyday, how much money were you bringing in? Like, were you just extravagantly wealthy?
Well, we were running in just the United States. We were spending around $2 to $3 million a week in advertising. And we were generating a ratio. Now in the marketing world, they call it ROAS, return on ad spend. Back then, we just said ratio. If you spent $2 million and you brought in $4 million, you did a 2 ratio. So we were doing 3 to 5 ratios. So we were bringing in a substantial amount of money every single week, but more importantly, a substantial amount of positive cash flow profit every single week as well. And that was just in the infomercial world. That didn't include the networks and the mining operations and the manufacturing and the other things I had going on too, which most people didn't even know about.
Yeah. So did you get it from your notoriety, all that deal flow, or did you have all that and then pop this up?
I had most of that first. And then obviously when the infomercial started with Mega Memory, which was the first one, I did $480 million in sales just on that one product back in the 90s, Mega Memory. And then we had a whole host of other ones as well.
So you were already like in business. You were already an entrepreneur. Were you already successful?
Yeah, I started my first company when I was 15 years old. I was in direct mail. This is back in the 70s. And because there was no internet, we used to actually communicate either with the telephone or by mailing people letters. So no one knew how old I was. And I was writing these direct mail pieces for other guys, very famous direct mail experts and marketing guys. They didn't know how young I was, but I had a real knack for marketing and writing sales letters. So I would get royalties on their sales. So before I was 18, I had made millions and millions of dollars in royalties that they were sending me, not knowing that I was some kid in high school.
So how did you get into it?
Well, I read a book back in the 70s. I was reading, remember the National Enquirer?
Sure.
Okay, that was a real hot thing back then. So there was these full page ads for different products, and a lot of them were get rich quick schemes. And there was one by a guy named Ben Suarez who said, I have a business, a way that you can generate huge amounts of money. And the name of the book was 7 Steps to Freedom, How to Escape the American Rat Race. So I sent in my money and I got this thick book. And man, I had to have a dictionary next to me because I was so young. I didn't know half of the words and I didn't even understand what the hell he was talking about, but he was teaching you how to get into the direct mail business. And after reading that, I said, well, I'm going to get into the direct mail business. So I started running classified ads in the National Enquirer and the Globe and some of the other, magazines. And all of a sudden, I didn't realize that I had written some of these spectacular direct mail pieces. Other guys in the industry took note and they would reach out to me and said, hey, will you write ads for me? And we'll pay you a royalty. So not only did I have a successful mail business operation, running out of my house when I was a kid, 15 years old, but I was also writing ads for other people. And then they were paying me these huge royalty checks on all of the sales. And I had just a natural knack to figure out by tapping into kind of the field of what were a person's buttons, what would motivate them, what made sense that would get them to take action and actually buy a product.
Your parents, what were they doing? My
dad was a welder. My mom was a full-time house wife and homemaker. And they had no idea, except they were a little bit confused when the mailman used to come with 1 or 2 mail bags full of mail. And I would recruit some of my buddies to come in and we would open up all these letters and there would be cash, and I would take the cash in a bag and then I would go down to the bank and deposit this huge amount of cash. And a lot of it I would keep and I would, let me get a safe, and let me put the money in the safe. And this was just like a fun thing. And again, it was very easy. I had a real knack for this. And I realized that I was doing some things that almost anybody could really do with their mind first, which would generate money, not necessarily in direct mail. They could be successful in almost anything. And I started telling a lot of my friends, this is how you have to think. And if you get this thinking right, then an idea will come to you and kind of like, the windows will open up and you'll start making money in spite of yourself. And it will almost seem like you're making money by accident. Many of my friends, all of a sudden, one guy got into the car business, another guy got into a plumbing business, another guy started a glass company. And they just started making crazy money. And we came from a community where everybody was a blue collar worker. My dad was a union welder, worked for the GE.
Where were you living?
Lynn, Massachusetts, which was a union. It was a union blue collar place. We lived in a house. It was like 1,200 square feet with 1 bathroom. And everybody lived like that. It was just small little homes, and nobody went to college. Nobody owned their own business. The whole game was get into the union or work for the government. And the joke was, if you work for the government, it's better than your union because you don't have to do anything and they can't fire you. And that was how it was growing up in Massachusetts, union or government job, and you're set for life. And I was like, no, if you have goals and dreams, you're going to have to be in a business of your own. You can't work for somebody. You can do that to start as you're building some money and you need that to pay the bills. But if you want financial freedom, you have to be your own boss. You have to be in a business of your own and get either a business working for you or getting your money working for you.
So The book, by the way, guys, if you want this book, it's an excellent audio book because I've never read the book. I'm listening to the book and your narration is impeccable. It's almost like you're talking. It's like, in other words, it's a well-read audio book. If you guys like audio, go get the audio book. You can also get the hardcover.